The first frost had just settled on Maplewood Lane, wrapping each rooftop in a delicate shroud of white. The morning air was crisp, a tangible whisper of the impending winter. In our small suburban enclave, the holiday season was more than a tradition. It was a competition. As soon as the Thanksgiving leftovers found their place in the fridge, the neighborhood transformed into a festive battlefield of twinkling lights and inflatable Santas. It was a warm, welcoming sight, but not everyone felt that way. Karen Fisher was the self-appointed sentinel of the Homeowners Association. Her house stood like a sentinel at the entrance to the cul-de-sac, a prime location for someone who relished control. She was strategic in her watch, peering through lace curtains like a hawk, scrutinizing its prey. The HOA rules were her scriptures, and her purpose was enforcement. I had been in Maplewood Lane for 3 years, long enough to know the ebb and flow of Karen's moods. She was a force of nature, as relentless as the tide. Her first strike came subtly, as many of her machinations did. A letter slipped under my door. Its edges were sharp, as if cut by Karen herself. The paper smelled faintly of lavender, an eerie juxtaposition to the hostility it contained. I unfolded it with the cautious curiosity of a bomb disposal technician. The letter was crisp, each word a precise incision. My holiday lights violated HOA guidelines, it said. Too bright, too early, too much. I imagined her typing furiously, satisfaction dripping from each keystroke. It was a petty infraction, barely worth the ink, but it was enough. Enough for her. Enough to provoke. I stood at my window, looking out at the lights that, in my eyes, brought warmth to the long, cold nights. They were a beacon to my young daughters, a touchstone for the magic I wished to preserve in their childhood. I sighed, feeling the weight of the decision. Compliance or defiance? I chose peace, at least for now. Quietly, I removed the lights, my silent rebellion simmering beneath the surface. It wasn't surrender, just a temporary retreat. As I worked, I felt the eyes of the neighborhood upon me, some sympathetic, others indifferent. The unspoken understanding was palpable. Everyone had been on Karen's list at one point or another. Winter's breath intensified, and with it, my resolve crystallized. Karen's letter was a spark, igniting something within me, something quietly powerful. I wanted to reclaim the joy she seemed determined to snuff out. Ideas fluttered through my mind like snowflakes. They settled, gathered, and before long I had a plan. I imagined Karen's face, taut with triumph at her small victory. I wondered if she considered the consequences of her actions, if she realized the dormant spirit she had awoken. Probably not, but she would soon. The street would shine, brighter than ever, and her name would be the one leading it. A small irony, a poetic justice. The thought made me smile, a secret shared with the winter night. The frost held its ground as the neighborhood settled into the season's rhythms. For now I would wait, as quietly powerful as the snow, knowing that when the moment came, it would be remembered. This wasn't just about lights. It was about reclaiming light itself. Karen's letter had arrived like a snowstorm in April, unexpected, unwelcome, and oddly persistent. She had taken issue with the holiday lights I'd strung around my eaves, claiming their twinkle was a disruption to the sanctity of our suburban tableau. It seemed almost humorous at first, a farcical plot line straight out of a holiday movie. But Karen had a knack for turning petty grievances into Herculean tasks, her indignation fueling a tireless crusade for conformity. The dawn after her letter arrived, I found myself on the receiving end of her next salvo. A citation. Apparently, my mailbox had somehow failed to meet HOA specifications. I examined it closely that morning, squinting at its weathered wood and stainless steel, like a detective at a crime scene. Nothing appeared amiss. But Karen's scrutiny was unmatched, her eyes the sharpest of scalpels, always ready to slice through the fabric of our little community. As the days passed, whispers began to ripple through the neighborhood, each one a featherlight suggestion that gained momentum on the breeze. Karen, the self-anointed arbiter of neighborhood decorum, had rallied her forces. Her cronies, those who hovered in her orbit like moths to a porch light, were suddenly more visible, their eyes on me, their whispers trailing in the air like spectral gossip. It was a scene from a play of living caricatures. There was Marge, the dog walker, whose pace had slowed each time she neared my house, her gaze flickering over my lawn as if expecting it to erupt into weeds at any moment. And then Harold, the retiree whose morning papers had a newfound tendency to land conspicuously close to my driveway, his stooped figure always pausing just a beat too long as he retrieved them. Each day coaxed a new insult from Karen's arsenal, a notice about hedge height one morning, a tersely worded missive about lawn care the next, absurdity piled on absurdity until it became a teetering tower of bureaucratic nonsense. Karen's campaign was relentless, like a river eroding the banks of my patience. I considered her motivations in quiet moments, the irony not lost on me. A neighborhood meant to be a bastion of peace had become a theater of the absurd under her reign. Her power derived from a manual and a clipboard, but she wielded it like a scepter. In the quiet hours of the night, my thoughts strayed to the holiday lights, their glow woven through the memory of her first citation. An idea began to form, a plan to reclaim a little joy from the encroaching shadow of petty tyranny. If Karen wanted adherence to the letter of the law, I would respond with the spirit of the season, amplified tenfold. The lights, I decided, would return, not just to my house, but as an offering to the entire street, a gesture of camaraderie against the encroaching pettiness. But they would shine in Karen's honor, a tribute to the irony of her crusade. It was a decision that settled in me with the calm certainty of a winter dawn. I would light up the night, and in doing so, illuminate the absurdity of her quest. The night air was crisp, each breath a visible whisper against the cold. Stars punctured the dark velvet sky, flickering like tiny holiday lights themselves. I sat at my desk, the glow from my laptop casting a soft halo in the dimly lit room. The screen displayed the carefully compiled dossier, a testament to meticulous preparation and patience. Karen had indeed made her mark on the neighborhood with her self-appointed stewardship. Her zeal for enforcing the Homeowners Association's guidelines was unmatched. Though it seemed she wielded the rulebook more like a weapon than a guide, her strikes were precise, and her aim was impeccable. My infraction, the twinkling holiday lights that had inadvertently breached the HOA's stringent decorum, was just the latest battle in her ongoing war for order. But every action has an equal and opposite reaction. I had spent weeks gathering evidence, observing her in her natural habitat. The irony was rich, almost indulgent. Karen, the paragon of neighborhood propriety, had her own lapses, small, perhaps insignificant to most, but against the backdrop of her rigid enforcement, they painted a beautiful tapestry of hypocrisy. Saturday mornings were her time. She would leave with her oversized sunglasses perched on her nose, latte in hand, while her dog, an excitable little fluffball, roamed freely. The leash, a mere suggestion of control, trailed uselessly behind. It was a minor infraction, but the rules were clear. Dogs must be leashed. It was all captured, each infraction documented with time-stamped precision. The irony was palpable, like the scent of pine in the winter air. Yet, revenge was not my goal. Not entirely. I sought balance, a gentle reminder that rules are a two-edged sword. I needed something clever, something subtle yet loud enough to resonate. An idea began to take shape, growing like a snowball gaining momentum as it rolled downhill. December arrived with a dusting of frost, and with it my plan unfurled. I began to decorate. Not just my house, but the entire street. Lights draped over every bush, every tree, and every rooftop, their vibrant hues bleeding into the night. But the pièce de résistance was the large, blinking banner stretched across our street for all to see. Karen's Christmas Wonderland. The spectacle was dazzling, a sensory overload of jubilant color. Neighbors peered from their windows, drawn by the festive glow. Some joined in the spirit, adding their own lights to the display. It was as if the entire street had come alive, a collective defiance cloaked in joyous celebration. I watched from my porch, concealed in the shadows. There was Karen, standing on her doorstep, framed by the kaleidoscope of lights. Her face was a mask of conflicting emotions, disbelief, frustration, and something else simmering just beneath the surface. A smile, unbidden, stretched across my lips. As if on cue, a passerby paused to admire the view. They turned to Karen, nodding appreciatively. "This is incredible. You must have put so much effort into making our street so festive." Her response was lost to the night, but her posture spoke volumes. The rigid lines had softened, her shoulders no longer tense. A reluctant participant in the spectacle she unwittingly inspired. I remained on my porch long after the lights had turned the night into day. Beneath the twinkling canopy, the street felt alive with a shared secret, a silent acknowledgement of the invisible bonds that held us all together. Karen had her rules, but we had our lights. And together they danced in the night like fireflies in a summer's twilight. The night after the switch had been flipped, the street buzzed with a thrumming energy, a current that seemed to hum beneath the asphalt and through the neighborhood trees. My audacious light display, a kaleidoscope of colors in synchronized choreography, had turned the quiet, understated cul-de-sac into a spectacle that even Clark Griswold would find excessive. In the days that followed, a quiet murmur began to ripple through the neighborhood. At first, it was a trickle, a couple of passers-by stopping to gawk, their faces illuminated by the glow of 1,000 LEDs. Then, it became a flow, with cars pausing longer, drivers craning their necks to take in the entire expanse of my handiwork. I watched from my window, a shadow among the Christmas lights. Each vehicle was a testament to the spreading notoriety of my illumination rebellion, a living proof of my petty, yet deeply satisfying retaliation against a woman who had turned our neighborhood into a battlefield of etiquette and power. Karen hadn't yet appeared. I imagined her peering out from behind her lace curtains, her eyes narrowed to slits as she calculated her next move. Her absence, an unspoken tension, hung heavily in the air, a thunderhead in an otherwise clear winter sky. The neighbors were wary, their eyes flitting between their own dull, regulation-approved decorations and my altogether brighter declaration. Some nodded, a silent acknowledgement, perhaps admiration. Others held back their opinions, offering only whispers exchanged over fences or at the mailbox. The irony? It was all in her name. A flurry of merriment that should have been her victory, yet it mocked her instead. The letters of her name, sprawling in light across lawns, became a beacon of defiance. The atmosphere was electric, unpredictable, a powder keg awaiting a spark. Within my chest, an echo of my initial anger pulsed, diminished now, more a memory than a current emotion. There was a strange peace in the chaos, a calm that came with knowing I'd done something that couldn't be ignored, something that couldn't be swept under the rug or silenced with a fine. Daylight cracked the sky, revealing the residue of the night's spectacle. The lights, now off, left the street looking oddly bare. It was like waking from a vivid dream. The colors and movement dissipated into the mundane reality of daylight. I saw her then, standing at the periphery of her yard, arms crossed, a figure cut from stone. Her hair, a steel gray, whipped slightly in the morning breeze. She remained stoic, a statue of resolve or perhaps resignation. I could almost feel her gaze, piercing, dissecting, cataloging her next grievance. Was there fear in her eyes? Or was it determination? It was hard to say from a distance, but her posture suggested a woman not easily bested. A single car rolled by, its driver slowing to admire the spectacle that wouldn't truly shine until nightfall. The driver's window slid down, a brief exchange of words with Karen. A nod from the driver, a dismissive gesture from her. Her power, undiminished. Her influence, still palpable. Yet, as she turned, the corner of her mouth twitched. A smile? A grimace? It was a fleeting moment, inscrutable as the woman herself. But it was enough to know this wasn't over. The night would come again, and with it, the lights. My rebellion against shadows, against silence, against the tyranny of a single name. I couldn't help but smile. The cold December air nipped at my nose as I stepped outside. A soft crunch underfoot. The snow served as a crisp reminder of the season. The lights still twinkled defiantly along the rooftops, reflecting a warmth that belied the frosty chill. They were no longer just decorations, but symbols of a neighborhood's quiet rebellion, a shared dream of resisting the overreach of authority. The spectacle had caught more than a few eyes. Local news vans had come and gone, leaving behind a trail of curious spectators who drove past slowly, their eyes wide with wonder and a hint of admiration. Karen had yet to step outside, her blinds drawn tight as if to shield herself from the glow she had inadvertently commissioned. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that my revenge wasn't merely electric. It was, in truth, a litigious string of lights reaching far beyond our little cul-de-sac. The HOA meeting, more a tribunal of dissenting voices than a gathering of neighbors, had provided the final spark. Karen, seated at the head of the table, had remained composed, her voice like ice, slicing through any opposition. But her composure was a mask, a fragile facade. Beneath it, a fear had trembled, one I had been quietly nurturing. I had spent weeks gathering paperwork, tracing the breadcrumbs of her reign, board decisions made in secret, fines levied without proper procedure. Her signature, bold and careless, marked pages that detailed a litany of overreaches. Yet it was my discovery of the financial irregularities, funds unaccounted for, discrepancies in the association's ledger, that had delivered the final, damning blow. There was poetry in it, a certain symmetry. She had imposed fines for the mere act of illumination, and I had illuminated her misdeeds for all to see. The legal notice was delivered in a crisp manila envelope, slipped under her door with neither ceremony nor delay. I imagined the moment she found it, how the color might have drained from her cheeks, her heart skipping a beat as she realized the gravity of the situation. The neighborhood was quiet now, the hush of anticipation thick in the air. I could feel their eyes on me, curious, watchful, wondering what would happen next. There was a beauty in their silent support, a shared understanding that transcended words. And then it came, the sound, sharp and final, of a door closing. Karen emerged, her face a pale moon in the winter dusk. She looked at me across the street, a mixture of disbelief and grudging respect flickering in her eyes. For a brief moment, time held its breath. "Well played," she murmured, her voice carrying on the still air. I nodded, acknowledging the battle we had fought, the quiet war waged with words and lights. The moment stretched, a tapestry woven with strands of irony and vindication. As she retreated back into her house, I turned my gaze to the sky where the first stars began to twinkle, indifferent to our human dramas. This street had become more than just a battleground. It was a stage, a canvas where we painted our struggles in hues of resilience and defiance. The lights continued to blaze, their glow merging with the stars, a testament to victory not just over one woman's tyranny, but over the darkness of unchecked power. The night I chose to unveil the new lighting display, the air was crisp with the bite of early winter, as if the world itself anticipated the unraveling of Karen's reign. My fingers tingled with a mix of anticipation and the lingering chill as I flipped the switch that would light up the entire street in a blaze of color and warmth. Lights danced across the facades of every house, spilling into the night like a rainbow hurricane. Each bulb was a pinpoint of rebellion, a tiny beacon of liberation against the monochrome dictate of Karen's HOA. The neighborhood, once muted and constrained, now pulsed with vibrant life. The joy was palpable, an electric current that ran through the street and found its way into the hearts of my neighbors. From the depths of their homes, they emerged, drawn by the spectacle. Their eyes shone, reflecting the kaleidoscope above, and I felt a warmth spreading not just from the lights, but from a shared sense of victory. Karen, predictably, was the last to appear. Her steps were sharp, her demeanor tighter than the meticulously pruned hedges that lined my driveway. She stopped at the edge of the light's reach, a solitary figure carved in the shadows. For once, words failed her. Her mouth a thin line as her eyes darted over the scene. I could only imagine her thoughts, a whirlwind of indignation and disbelief. She who had ruled with an iron fist wrapped in the velvet glove of authority now faced a community united in defiance. Her silence was a testament to the power we had reclaimed. The irony was delicious. The very lights she had sought to extinguish now bore her name in gleaming letters, a tribute not to her rule, but to its undoing. It was as if the universe had conspired to craft the perfect poetic justice, each bulb a punctuation mark in her once unquestioned narrative. As the night stretched on, the street transformed into a tapestry of laughter and camaraderie. Neighbors mingled, their voices rising and falling like waves against the shore. Children chased after shadows, their laughter echoing, a symphony of joy that shattered the silence Karen had imposed. In the midst of it all, I stood back, content to watch as the community wove itself back together. It was a healing, a renewal that had been long overdue. Here, among the twinkling lights, people found connections they hadn't realized they'd lost. Karen lingered on the periphery, her presence a fading shadow against the light. Slowly, grudgingly, she retreated, eclipsed by the brightness she could no longer control. She was sidelined, her authority reduced to a whisper in the wind, swept away by the tide of unity and light. As the first snowflakes began to fall, dusting the street in a soft white shimmer, I felt a profound peace settle over me. The battle was done, the war won not with anger, but with light. A quiet revolution in which the true victory lay not in the defeat of one, but in the triumph of all. In that moment, beneath the canopy of stars and the glow of 1,000 lights, we were more than neighbors. We were a community reborn.